What's happening, people? It's your boy Pulak, and I'd like to welcome you guys to the very first PlayStation India podcast episode. So I'm joined by Rishi Alwani and Khumail Thakur. Now, why don't you guys introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Khumail Thakur. I am the managing editor for Stuff India magazine and What Hi-Fi magazine, and I am a thoroughbred gamer. Is that what you want me to say?
That's perfect. Okay, what about you, Rishi?
Hey, I'm Rishi Alwani. I'm a games industry consultant, among other things. And I've previously written for a bunch of places about video games as well.
Today, we decided that we're going to be talking about games that had an impact on India and the Indian gaming audience in general.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there was a fun era of gaming way before it all went online, right? And particularly with the PS2, we saw a lot of people get into gaming at that time.
Yes.
And it was pretty cool because you had games as low as $6.99, $4.99 where people could just pick up and play. And it was fascinating because it was also at a time where you didn't usually use Metacritic or you didn't usually go on a IGN or GameSpot to check out whether a game is worth buying.
Yeah.
And it reaches a situation where, you end up buying stuff which, I saw something like Ben 10. I'm going to try that game out. And
I think that's what we were discussing before the podcast as well, that I didn't buy Resident Evil 4 because I did not like the box art cover.
Right.
Because there were no people on it. I couldn't relate to it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what brings it back to Ben 10, right? I bought Ben 10 on the PlayStation because I watched Ben 10.
Yeah.
And I could relate to it. So even games like Ben 10 had an impact on the Indian gaming audience. Dragon Ball Z, huge part of my childhood.
Budokai Tenkaichi 3, everybody's played
I played it on the PlayStation, I played it on the PSP, and I now have it on the PlayStation 5. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was my go-to game back on the PlayStation 2.
But when it comes to cultural impact, like what games do you have in mind?
I mean, that's an interesting one, right? Like most people move towards relatable to them, right? So we saw people pick up Spider-Man, pick up Naruto, pick up Bleach, simply because at the end of the day, that's what they resonated with in other forms of entertainment, right? And when I mean Spider-Man, I mean the non-Insomniac Spider-Man games. Yes, there was an era of Spider-Man games before it came to Insomniac. And I do think when you look beyond that, right? Because you have that foundation set of, I've played stuff which I liked. Is there what's more to play? And when you look at it from that lens, to me, Killzone 2 stands out, particularly as a big title with cultural impact here. It created a very active community of people who would play the multiplayer, and that even carried forward with Killzone 3. And I've personally seen that myself, where do or die, there was a point in time in my life, if at 6 p.m. I wasn't on PlayStation Network with my friends playing Killzone 3 multiplayer, I would be socially ostracized. So yeah, it was a thing. To me, Killzone really stands out for that reason. And aside from that, I would probably think Uncharted to a large degree.
Right.
That was the first time I felt a lot of people got wide access to a cinematic.
Exactly. That was the start of the cinematic games. On a PS3 was filled with these. God of War 3, you have the Uncharted games, and there were so many. And even The Last of Us, obviously, released later. And that was cinematic peak. But anyways, you were saying.
Yeah, so like it's a situation where, once it's like this, right? The PlayStation 2 era had a whole bunch of titles that were super relatable.
Right.
Maybe not what most purists would consider really good games, but it got people in the door. And with the PS3, it was about a lot of the audience and everyone trying to have a sense of taste, of figuring out what they really gravitated towards, right? And I think to me, the biggest shocker of that entire era was more than God of War, because God of War was a consistent seller back in the PS2 times, even to the PS3. But to me, the biggest shocker was how people gravitated towards The Last of Us, the first one, particularly when it came just towards the end of the console cycle. And I remember finishing the game really early one morning, and this is just before reviews were supposed to go out. I was supposed to put out a review for a bunch of sites. And I remember texting a friend of mine, Avinash Bali, who was also writing about it at that time, and we're like discussing the ending. We're like, wow, this is going to be huge when this hits, right? And I think, and that kind of carried through, because what happened was with Last of Us 2, even though there was a lot of discourse around that game, and a lot of it was positive, which I found shocking. And it's an audience, right, where they've developed over time, and you see that audience grow with the game as well. So that's a cool thing to see. That doesn't really always happen.
No, it doesn't. And The Last of Us, I think it was the very first game where the emotional hook, right? It was the first time I witnessed something like that.
Yep.
And I was totally in it by the very first time. You know what I'm talking about. The exact
I mean, it wasn't more of so explosion rather than it was more to do with like human emotions.
It wasn't trying to
like
wow you. It was just gripping you emotionally.
Because till then, I think the PlayStation exclusive that came out, God of War, Uncharted, they all had massive explosions, cinematic set pieces, bosses, great fights, all of that stuff, right? So you're always enamored by that appeal. And then Last of Us comes in, which is completely switches the whole thing and you know, kind of
has a more somber tone.
Pulls you in on a more emotional level.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Last of Us Part 2 is more close to me now than God of War was in the PlayStation 2 era. Because I kind of just grew up, like Rishi said, right? From Part 1 to Part 2, you kind of grew into a different gamer with the game itself.
Yes.
And going back to the PlayStation 2 era, I kind of had two different lives with the PlayStation 2 that I had. One was local co-op, which you don't see anymore.
No, not much.
And back then we had something called gaming cafes. A lot of people don't know about it now, but so what we would do is after our school hours, we would go to these gaming cafes, and whatever the gaming cafe had, you had to play it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you had your buddy with you, and whatever the gaming cafe had, you would just go and ask whatever your favorite game is. And back then, we used to ask for WWE, Here Comes the Pain, SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain.
Right.
I love that game. WWE, SmackDown versus Raw.
Yeah.
FIFA, obviously.
Of course.
And PES. What happened to PES? PES was very close to my heart. I really enjoyed playing local co-op. It's something about that banter when you're sitting with a friend next to you and playing video games. Right. It's a different feeling.
You know he's only winning because he's got the better controller, right?
You know, that was the conversation because you're at a local cafe, everyone's using that controller.
Exactly.
So there is wear and tear. And that's where you kind of have your favorites within your own, gaming cafe.
Yes.
And then obviously, people who did not have PlayStations at home, they would come there and play single player games as well. San Andreas. I would sit with a sheet of paper writing all the cheat codes down. Those were the days, And back home, when I finally got a PlayStation 2, I moved to single player games. God of War being the best game that I've played on the PlayStation 2. And Need for Speed.
And NFS, dude, a lot of people have grown up on NFS. So
Need for Speed, Underground 2, Need for Speed, Most Wanted.
Yeah.
These two games have changed racing games for me.
Let's not forget Road Rash though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, rowdy vibes. That was amazing. Road Rash was awesome too.
Road Rash, there's still a millennial reference when it comes to Road Rash. Like you want to kick someone on the bike, it's like Road Rash, I still find it very nice that people still think about Road Rash.
Yeah, the game was it left an impression. Let's just put it that way. And there were most of the times coming back after school and everything. We'd play Road Rash. So that at least within my circles, it was a very popular game, right? And something very cool also that I picked up on is the fact that these franchises that existed back then, right? Like we're talking about Tekken, we're talking about God of War, we're talking about Resident Evil and stuff. They're still going strong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're pretty much still the cream of the crop. What do you guys think of this?
I mean, I think it's an interesting one, right? You can't have games that last or IP that last that long if you didn't have that much of an audience around it, right? And it's funny Khumail mentions GTA because if you think about it, an entire generation of Indian content creators grew up on GTA 4 and 5 and actually started making content with GTA 5. And that actually skyrocketed the notoriety in a way of these games and gaming in general, right? And it's quite funny because you even had a time where the go-to search phrase for anything on YouTube was GTA space PSP or GTA space whatever, trying to get because that was a cheat code for traffic for a lot of people back in the day. But the reality is that grew a community around it, right? That grew a discourse around it, right? There were people who were who would even create GTA role-playing servers where they literally play as a cop through the entire thing. There are people just be playing robbers through the entire thing. And because it came at such a brilliant time where we were seeing this huge explosion of people coming online, right? Our data was cheap. It was easy for people to go online. Easy for people to experiment with video. It just created an even larger impact for gaming that wasn't even possible previously.
Yes.
So I think that, if you ask me, something like a GTA, particularly 5 at the time it came in, actually even brought more attention to San Andreas and Vice City.
Right.
In a way.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like San Andreas and Vice City kind of build up the whole momentum for GTA, and then 4 obviously was like somewhere in between, and then 5 really took off.
Yeah.
But he's right. The online part of it, I remember my friend calling me. He's like, bro, I have this whole empire. And I was like, where? He's like, GTA 5. I was like, sure. And he's like, why don't you, join in? And this guy has never called me to play online games with him, right? Fortnite is one that he plays, and GTA Online was one that he got into, which was very shocking because some people just buy, a PlayStation just to play FIFA or WWE, right?
Yes.
Still in India, I would say. And when you tell them to play single-player games, they're not so keen. But when it comes to GTA, everyone's buying GTA.
And now speaking of online games, you mentioned Killzone, right? For me, my introduction to online games was Modern Warfare 2, right? You know what the lobbies were like.
Yeah.
There was a bit of an ouch there. But where do you think it really took off?
I would say you're about right. I think it is the Modern Warfare 2 era, the original Modern Warfare 2, not the recent release.
For India, do you think GTA 5 as well?
No, I do agree it happened a little sooner, a little earlier than that. So I'd say around Modern Warfare 2. And then you even had the good battlefields like 3 and 4 around that time as well. So, I do agree with him. That's when we saw people going online to play. Right? And I do think it just snowballed from there. You had GTA 5, you had PUBG on consoles, which is fantastic. Right? So it gave people a taste of what it is to play online. And took it from there. So I do agree that Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare was about the right time, and it dovetailed, like I said, well even with the fact that you had more people with access to faster internet. So
Okay, what was your guys' first online gaming experience? Do let us know in the comments. And anyways, now when we're talking gaming, right? I think it's fair to classify pre-lockdown, post-lockdown gaming, right? You guys agree with me on that? So what do you think changed with the lockdown?
Where do I start? So you have the gamer side of it, and then you have like the VCs and the game developer side of it, right? After lockdown, everyone understood that there's a bigger need for co-op gameplay, right? I mean, online multiplayer is where, and then you have things like microtransaction and stuff like that, right? That's where everyone pivoted. Yours truly as well. But the gamer side of it was just going out to have a fun time with your friends online, right? A lot of the games, shooter games specifically, that did not require a lot of like hand-holding or like, understanding of the previous game.
Yeah, like Warzone and stuff is pretty much...
Warzone is like on the top, what I would say, but Fall Guys is something that came out of nowhere. Right? Like Fall Guys and Among Us.
Among Us too.
Like these two really made us understand the social impact of gaming together, right? Among Us kind of made you not trust your online friends, but also trust them enough to play with them again and again and again, right? And Fall Guys was, you could hand the controller to anyone who is not into gaming as well, right? You could give it to your mom, your parents, your family, anyone, and they would have an understanding of how to go about this game.
Now I see what you
right?
mean. Yeah.
So those two things kind of picked up for me personally in terms of gaming, because Modern Warfare, Battlefield, Valorant, all these games were always there. They were always shooters online. But where Among Us and Fall Guys came into picture, kind of changed the entire landscape of what to expect from a multiplayer game. And I think that was like a big impact for me. Even I would go fast, say Ubisoft's Just Dance. Just Dance was the only game that I've played with my mother.
Okay.
Dude, that game is so good. Because everyone in India loves music. Everyone in India loves dancing. Everyone's dancing at weddings, right?
Of course.
But why aren't more people playing Just Dance? Is my question. Because it's such a good game for the Indian audience. I feel like more people need to play it. And it's something that I picked up during the lockdown.
Right. And it's a decent amount of cardio also. What
exactly. That was the reason. we were sitting at home, right? You had to move around a bit.
Yeah.
I had to make sure my parents also move around a bit.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, you want to dance or what? They're like, sure. What do you have to do? I was like, nothing. Just look at the screen and dance.
That's true.
And I think those kind of games kind of, set the tone for me at least.
Yeah.
Besides, obviously, your GTAs, your Battlefields and your shooters.
So before I ask you about single player games and what you think the lockdown did to those, I want to know what you think of what impact the lockdown had on gaming in general.
I think it was a interesting situation because it led to a lot more people realizing that, hey, there's this thing called video games, and you can pick up this plastic box which you can connect to your TV and play with your friends, and that helped in a lot of ways. That created more awareness. It had more sales, right? We saw. I mean, from my experience alone, I saw retailers, even though it was lockdown, they were still making money. Everyone was selling consoles. There was an audience that just came in, and the beauty of it is that audience never left.
Yeah.
So I remember, like, I had friends who would, who according to them, video games was for kids. Suddenly calling out and calling me and asking, hey, what's this Bloodborne you guys keep talking about? What's this Elden Ring you guys keep talking about? I'm like, what's going on here? Like, no, you see, I picked up a PS4 and I thought I'll check these out. I'm like, yes. While you're at it, please check out Yakuza. Please check out the Judgment games. You'll have a good time. So it helped, yeah.
So that was the very first episode of the PlayStation India podcast. It was great having a chat with you guys. And it's always good to see, your guys' perspective on these things. And I hope that we have another one of these talks again soon. Tell the audience where they can find you.
So you can pick up a magazine, Stuff magazine, from any newsstand or subscribe. Or just find us on stuffindia.in. That's where I write game reviews and tech product reviews. And Rishi?
You can find me on Twitter or Blue Sky, Rishi Alwani. That's simple enough. So, yeah.
You won't find me. Anyways, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell. And thanks for watching till the end. Bye.
PlayStation